YouTube. It is your girl Lauren Finesse, and we are back. And y'all know what we got to talk about. We got to talk about Love Is Blind season 3. I did take some notes, and yeah. So okay. Let me just say this. This season has been a little lackluster. It's been entertaining to me. I've seen some people not have the best things to say about it, but for me, it's been very entertaining. It's held my attention. Let me say that. I won't say it's been very entertaining, but it has held my attention. And so, of course, I wanted to come on here and talk about it. We always have a good time when we talk about these shows. And I think so far there's 9 or 10 episodes. There's another 2 or 3 coming up this Wednesday. So that'll be the finale. All of the weddings will have been shown. So I'll come back and I'll do a part 2. So let's do some predictions and where we are so far. This will include spoilers. So if you haven't watched the show and you're one of those people that spoilers will ruin it for you, go back, watch it, come back, watch this, okay? So without further ado, let me get my little sip. I'm usually drinking rosé, but I've been drinking honey jack lately because it's like, I don't know, the seasons have changed. My allergies have been going crazy. I had like a slight cold with a cough at one point. And the honey jack, I was making hot toddies with the tea, a little bit of honey jack, honey, ginger, lemon juice, the works. And so it's like, I mean, not that it's helping, it's alcohol, but it's at least been getting me over the hump. So that's been my drink of choice lately. But anyway, y'all know I gotta give a little housekeeping item. So anyway, so let's get into it. So, all right, so I'm not gonna go episode over episode. You know, I don't rock like that. I'm going to just go couple by couple, and we'll talk about each of the couples, make some predictions, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to start out with Nancy and Bartiste because that's the cliffhanger. That's where they left us. If you haven't seen it, Nancy said yes, her and her old face. And I'm sorry, but Nancy is 32. Nancy looks 62 in the face. Her face looks so old and beat up and just like rough. And it just is what it is. But she looks old to me, right? And then he looks super young and corny and goofy. To me, not a good match. Not a good match. Both of them did have other connections in the pods. You had Nancy was also attracted to Andrew, which I think would have been a better match for her. And then Bartiste, he had even though they couldn't see each other, they had a physical attraction, if that makes sense. Because they're both into fitness and so on and so forth. So I don't even think Raven was a better match for him, but she was more of a match than Nancy, if that makes sense. So anyway, so Nancy's 32, Bartiste is 27, and she was all about Bartiste until she found out how old he was, and she immediately started to get into Andrew more. And I saw that and I was just like, damn, you've been feeling him this whole time. And as soon as she found out his age, it was like she wanted to see other connections. But Andrew was a little weird. I don't know. I like Andrew, but I think he started talking about he could make himself come without touching him or something like. Anyway, it's some tantric sex tricks or whatever that he picked up along the way, which she was into. I don't know what happened, but she was like kind of into it, and she kind of pulled back off of him. And then, but her connection with Bartiste was just stronger. It was just like his age, you know. And she started talking about how she had donated all of these eggs for people that couldn't have kids, and that she might have like thousands and thousands of kids out here. And she signed a form that if they turn 18 and want to find her, they can. And so Nancy comes with a lot. She also has an ex who is a business partner of hers. She's a realtor. And Bartiste is early in his career. He's 27. I think he's like an accountant or something like that, senior analyst or something. And like I said, it left off on the cliffhanger with them. She said yes. I think he's gonna say no. That's my prediction. I think he's gonna say no. He's already talked about how he's not attracted to her. He mentioned something along the lines of when they got out of the pods and they got their phones back, when he shared pictures of her to his family and friends, they were like, no, what are you doing? And it played a part on his psyche. And he's like, yeah, you know, she isn't my normal type. I'm not really attracted to her. And he stopped being like into her, which I found to be kind of fake, because he was very much into her in the pods and when they met up and went on the like the retreat honeymoon or whatever. And so, but I get it. I get it. Outside factors will play a factor in your relationship, especially if in the back of your mind, you know something is a little off. And I think that's for Nancy and Bartise. I don't see it going. She seems like a sweet lady, but for me, she's just too old in the face. And he's so corny and he loves to talk. That's one thing about Bartise. He talks too fucking much. Like in the pods, one of his other connections was Raven. And I'm going to get into Raven and SK. They're another match. And he was pouring out his heart. And she was in there doing jumping jacks. And I loved it. I loved that he was, well, that sounds mean. But he was pouring out his heart. And she was doing jumping jacks. And it was, his story was so corny that he was telling. I would have been doing jumping jacks too. It's like, what else is going on here? So, in any event, I don't think they'll make it. So let's move on. Anything else? Oh yeah, one other thing is he felt really strongly. They talked about abortion, and she's like, hey, if a woman is raped, or if you know that there's going to be a complication with the pregnancy and that the child will have a disability, I would want to abort the baby just to avoid the headache and avoid the struggle of having to take care of a special needs child. And he's just like, no, I'm strong enough. I can take care of it. And it's like, okay, but you don't have to carry the baby. That's great. That's his stance. But I think he's very closed-minded on that topic. And his sister at one point, when they met the family, she was like crying about it. And I'm just like, you guys are living in a fantasy world. And listen, I'm not judging anyone on their pro-life, pro-choice feelings, and whatever your views are fine, but it was a little too much. He just felt way too strongly about it that his sister was crying. I was just like, they come from a very conservative family. Anyway, another thing, because they were lightweight, boring, and annoying, especially Bartise. He's fucking annoying. So I talked about one of the connections that Bartise had, which was with Raven, who is a Pilates instructor / bottle girl. She tried to say she's a bartender. Like, girl, you're a bottle girl. It's fine. Bottle girls make a lot of money. It's fine, And then SK, or Sakura is his name. He's Nigerian. She's mixed, black and white, and that could have been part of the issue. Again, spoiler alert. That was the one wedding they did show. She said yes, he said no, which I was like, I couldn't believe that he said no, because he seemed very much into her. To me, SK is not attractive, but he is handsome, if that makes sense. Like, just looking at him, he's not attractive, but the way he carries himself, he's very well put together. That makes him handsome. And so I initially thought that she didn't find him attractive at all. Like, when they first met out of the pods, it was kind of, you could tell that she was holding back and pulling back a little bit. And then, whereas when they went on the getaway, the getaway or whatever, they didn't have sex. I think they were the only couple that didn't have sex. So I was like, oh, maybe she's holding back because she's not attracted to him, because, she's a pretty girl. I don't think she's like this spectacular, but I think she is actually a very pretty girl. But next to him, I felt like she felt like she could do better. And so I thought she would have said no, but I think he sold her on this idea of family and this idea of what it could be, and he could take care of her. And she definitely comes from that place of men taking care of her. Not that she can't take care of herself, but you know, she mentioned in the pod that her ex, she still owned things of her ex, and she said it wasn't like her home, but I was like, okay, I bet it's like her car, jewelry, you know, stuff like that. So I think she saw SK, who seems to be well off, comes from a good family, and she was like, you know what, I can do it. He was supposed to, I guess 2 weeks or 2 months after the wedding, was supposed to go to California. This is all in Texas, by the way, but he was supposed to leave and go to school. And I just think that, you know, they knew the distance would be too much, but the whole time telling her friends, telling his family, he was saying like he wanted to make it work. So I wasn't shocked, but I was a little surprised that he said no, because he was making it seem like he wanted to make it work. So I don't know. That's that. Good luck to them. The mom seemed very much into Raven, and I thought it was so cute at the end when he said no, and Raven, she was crying. She walked off. She went back to like the little holding area in the hotel or wherever they were, and his mom came, and I loved that. That moment was real, and that was touching. I love that his mom came, and she's like, I don't know why he did that. I'm sorry to you that this happened. I really wanted you to be my daughter-in-law. And she cried with her. And that was for me, it was a real moment. There's like a lot of funny business going on, but for me, that was a real moment. And so I liked Raven, honestly. I still like SK. I agree. Like, if you're having any doubts, even though this is a television show, you definitely don't want to get married to someone and it not last. It's just not even worth going through the hassle and trouble of trying to make it work if you can see that it's not working. And I've been in that boat. So say no to the ring, say no to everything if you know it's not going to work. Like, don't lead people on, and, you know, for your own ego. But yeah, so that was them. Anything else about them? Really, no. That was it. Like I said, he said no, she said yes. It was sad. That's the only wedding we got. That's them. This next one. So next is Cole and Zaynab. Y'all, Zaynab is, I'm not sure where her ethnicity, actually, because she's from like London. I do know where she's from. Her ethnicity, I think she's Middle Eastern of some sort. And very beautiful woman. And actually, people were talking shit about Cole, but Cole is actually a nice looking guy. Like, his eyes are piercing blue. Like, just, he's a nice looking man. Now, this is so funny. So in the pods, initially Cole was vibing and feeling Colleen, and we'll get into Colleen. We'll get into Colleen in a minute. But Zaynab, very pretty woman, but super insecure. I mean, like, super insecure, to the point that I was yelling at my TV, like, Zaynab, girl, you're gorgeous. Why are you comparing yourself to Colleen? Yes, Cole thought that Colleen was attractive, but baby girl, you are beautiful. You know what I mean? And so, but I know where it came from. So the thing about Zaynab is that both of her parents died within like a 4 or 5 year span while she was a teenager. So I think like her mom died when she was like 15, and then her dad died when she was like 19. So I understand why she's insecure. Her parents died during her formative years, and yes, the people that are supposed to build you up and instill confidence into you passed away during your formative years. And so I can see why she's insecure, okay? Not even knowing that she's such a beautiful woman. And I think, and I hope that the outpouring of the public telling her how beautiful she is, I hope that resonates with her. I don't think that Cole was the reason why she was so insecure. Even though Cole told her that normally he would go for Colleen, that's his type, that her insecurity was coming from within. And I didn't like that people were blaming Cole for making her insecure, because on the first overnight, like after they met, they had sex, and then he said I woke up this morning and she's acting weird. He's like, I didn't wake her up, and I got up and did my own thing because I wanted to let her sleep. In his mind, he's being considerate. In her mind, he got up and left her in the bed. He didn't cuddle with her. He didn't tell her she was pretty. When she woke up, he didn't tell her. And so she's immediately going to all of these negative thoughts. And I'm just like, girl, when you hear his side, it was so simple. He's like, I just wanted her to sleep. He's being considerate, and she's needing all of this reassurance. And let me tell you guys, there's one thing to reassure somebody in a relationship, but that is my number one pet peeve. I cannot continue to reassure you. At some point, especially if we're in a relationship and we've committed to each other, you have to not be so insecure and realize that we're in a relationship together. And you have to, at some point, you have to accept that and let's move forward. The constant reassurance is exhausting. I've been there. I'm sorry, I can't. So for me, I felt bad for Cole because I'm like, he's with this woman who, again, rightfully so, has some insecurities because of losing her parents and those being the people to instill that in her and her not having that. But she's 32. Like, at this point, you have been without both of your parents longer than you had both of your parents in your life. So you've developed some skills to kind of like move forward. So I won't beat up on her too much, but I think that she's super insecure. They got into it, and like a couple days before the wedding or the day before, the bachelor and bachelorette parties, and his family isn't coming to the wedding. She doesn't really have any family. I think that they'll both say no. She'll say no because she's halfway in, halfway out, and he'll say no because I think he's hit a wall with having to reassure her. And quite honestly, I would be tired of reassuring her as well. And I'm sorry. It just is what it is. All right. So as I mentioned, and I'm actually linking, I like how I did this. Now that I'm like noticing that I've linked the couples with one person that they were feeling with the next couple. So my mind just works that way. But so we talked about Colleen. Colleen was the one who, first of all, Colleen got on my fucking nerves talking about, I'm a ballerina. You're leading with being about a ballerina because you're trying to give off like some type of sexual vibes, and it came off extremely thirsty and also insecure. Every guy she's talked to, I'm a ballerina, I'm flexible. It's like, girl, no one cares that you're a ballerina. If you're not in like, what's the famous one in New York, like the such and such ballet, if you're not working for like the such and such ballet and you're not like getting paid like top dollar for being a ballerina, no one cares. And no disrespect to my ballerinas out there or my girls who are dancers professionally, but you have to have a personality outside of what you do for a career or whatever your passion is. Who are you? Like, if we take you being a ballerina away, are you just no one? And that's how she was coming across. So I'm sorry, but I got a little bit of pleasure that she was getting turned down by like all the guys she liked initially. And that's how she ended up with Matt. So Colleen and Matt. So initially she was into Cole, and Cole let her down because Cole was feeling it more with Zanab. And she was feeling Brennan. And then Brennan started feeling Alexa, so he had to let her go. And so she was the one that got like dumped or turned down the most. And it's like, she needed that, honestly, because girl, you're leading with being a ballerina. I'm a ballerina. You're leading with that, and you're leading with it almost translating into something sexual instead of leading with who you are as a person. So what happens? She runs into, third time's a charm, or is it Matt, who is just as insecure as Zanab, but the male version of that. So Matt is super insecure, and he has a bad attitude, and he has anger issues, and all of those things stem from him being insecure. He claims that he was with his ex, and she called and said that she was pregnant and that she was breaking up with him. Pregnant by someone else, obviously. and it crushed him. And I'm just thinking, like, was she pregnant or was she trying to get away from you? Because his insecurity was so frustrating to watch. So let me take a step back. So after all of the couples who have proposed go on their like getaway, while on the getaway, they have this pool party, as they do, this mixer. They have it every year. And during the pool party and slash mixer, people who had multiple connections, obviously they're going to want to talk to the other people they were connecting with, because this is the first time they're going to see them in person. And so Cole and Colleen were at the pool, and it was lightweight flirty, but all of you all just met. So it's not like, I didn't feel like they were doing anything wrong. You know, Cole told Colleen, you look like my type, you're my type to a T. And he was just expressing to her, hey, now that I see you in person, you are my type. However, he had an emotional connection with Xander. And Colleen she was entertaining him, but she wasn't necessarily flirting or trying to get with him, but she was entertaining it because they had a connection. And so Matt didn't like it, and he yelled at her, was gaslighting her, like guilt tripping her, like doing all of this stuff. And she's crying and she's like, I picked you, you picked me, I love you, don't do this. And he ended up like leaving for the night. And then I guess he came back the next day. They talked about it. They made up. I thought that would have been the end of it, but his insecurity came back up again, where they talked about, first of all, they talked about that situation again. He finally got over it because he got a chance to talk to Cole. And then Zaynab found out about it, and she got riled up about it. It was a whole thing when they met a little bit later on. But again, the constant reassuring that Colleen has to do with him is exhausting. And I've been there. And so because of that constant reassuring, towards the end, because I think that Colleen will say no. I think he will say yes, and I think that Colleen will say no. And she told him, he took her like on this like beautiful underwater dinner date. And he's like, stop skipping around it. Just say it. Just say it. And she's like, I don't think I'll say yes. Like right now at this time, I don't know. Probably no. And it isn't that she didn't love him, because she was talking to his mom, and I think she was very sincere. But the constant reassuring, guys, if you've ever been in a relationship with someone who is like very, very insecure and has been hurt by previous relationships, then you know that that constant reassuring is exhausting. And so I think that the first time she's like, okay, we're back on track. But then once he did it again, and they had a couple more, I guess, you know, they were bumping heads about things, I think she's just exhausted from the reassuring him and him blowing up and yelling at her and being aggressive and angry. And it's like, you need to relax. You need a therapist and a chill pill. Because like his go-to when he's upset is yelling, screaming, and packing his stuff and wanting to leave. So Colleen, let him go. I think that he will say yes. I think she will say no. Or they both may say no. And I only say that because she did tell him she didn't think she would say yes. So I think he will say no just to kind of protect himself. Not that he actually wants to say no. But anyway, that's that. And then we have the last couple, which is Brennan and Alexa. And so Brennan was the other person that turned down Colleen. I'm a ballerina. Like, no one cares. What else do you have going on? I like this couple. I think they'll both say yes. I think they may be the only couple that will both say yes. She is Israeli Jew, and he's like middle America white guy. He grew up very poor. She grew up very rich. And I think that, so what caused the spark is that he mentioned that one of his favorite meals is some I guess Middle Eastern meal. And she's like, what? You know about that meal? And that instantly like made her fall for him, because like, you know, it's like something rare you wouldn't think this guy would say, you know, even though she couldn't see him. But like what do you know about, a very culture specific meal? So I think that won her over. And then they met. She is a shapely girl. I love that she's like confident in saying, yeah, I probably could stand to lose a couple pounds, but I'm not, because I like to eat and it just is what it is. And you're going to take this body or you won't. And I love that not one time did we see him complain or mention her body or anything. So I love that for her. I do not like the fact that all of the injectables and shit that she has in fillers and all that in her face, her lips, her cheeks, her chin, it's too much. Like I hated her lips when I saw her for the first time. I was just like, girl, your lips are huge. And she's just like, I didn't think that he's gonna take this body. It's like, girl, I hated her lips. I hated her lips. They looked so like they were ready to pop. Other than that, though, very pretty girl. Again, I think they'll both say yes. She mentioned that I think he was like trying to like make love to her and like woo her. And she had to tell him like, no, I want you to like fuck me. And so she said after that, they've been great. And it's probably because she's a big girl and she wants to know that like she's protected. And so she wants to be kind of manhandled a little bit. I get it. We get it. So anyway, those are the couples. Like I said, for that one, the prediction is I think they'll both say yes. And I think they'll be fine. Hopefully he can stop talking about how he grew up without lights and water and like, okay, but now you're here, you have a great job, you never want to go back, you got some student loans. She doesn't have any loans because her parents are loaded. You'll be fine. They'll both say yes. Now, let me talk about just overall where I am with Love is Blind. One, normally there are a handful of people that we don't see, and that's just what it is. This season, we didn't even get introduced to everyone. Like, I feel like there were so many people I was like, I didn't even know they were on the show. We didn't see them interact with anyone. And I just found that to be so shitty because I think that there were some more interesting people there than who was picked. And so who they chose to pick or who proposed and who didn't, I'd like to know if anyone else on the show proposed and they didn't show their story or they chose not to use them, or is that the premise? They didn't propose, so we didn't choose them. I wonder, because there were so many men and women that we did not get to see, we were not introduced to, that just face value looked a lot more interesting. Like Brennan and Alexa, boring. Like I could have done without them. Matt, Colleen, Cole, Zaynab, I could have done with all four. I could have done without them. Raven and SK, they were boring. Like everyone was, again, the show overall held my attention. I was entertained, but the couples were giving boring. They were giving boring. And I just kind of wish we got to see some of the other couples, and maybe that would have been a little bit more interesting. I have seen some feedback about people talking about how there weren't any black women being showcased. If they didn't make connections, they didn't make connections. But I also picked up on that, like, it's a little, let's give us something, right? But yeah, overall, like I said, it's been at least holding my attention so far. So I'm not gonna go too deep. But Love is Blind has to go back to the drawing board. They need to reassess how they want this to go. I think the previous 2 seasons were really good, and it was a lot of fireworks and it was a lot of passion. And these people I'm not getting that much from. So they need to reset. So, but overall, it's good. I'll be back later this week to talk about part 2, which is going to be the rest of the weddings. And yeah, we can talk about it then. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys watching? Are you entertained? Are you bored? Do you feel like they're not showing the right couples? And do you agree that the previous 2 seasons were a lot better than this one? Like, where do you rank this one in the series? It's definitely not the best of the trilogy. And yeah, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think. And I will see you guys back here at the end of the week. Well, we'll wrap it up. We'll see if my predictions and your predictions were correct. And we'll go from there. All right, guys. Bye-bye.